Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Committee on Water and Land hearing. It's Tuesday, March 19th, 2024. We're on our 9:30 a.m. agenda in conference room 430 at the State Capitol. Just a reminder, if you're testifying by Zoom, please do not use the trademark or copyrighted images as a background, and please keep your camera and microphone muted until it's your time to testify. We have a very long agenda today, so we'll just be conscious of our time and try to keep testimony limited to around 2 or 3 minutes. That would be great. And yeah, we'll see how that goes. Okay, we'll get started with SB 2575 relating to the environment. First, we have Greenpeace Hawaii on Zoom.
Oh, okay. Aloha, can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you so much for hearing this bill. This is very important. The ocean, obviously, there's so much going on in the bottom of the ocean. We have no idea what's going on down there. Seabed mining is very dangerous. It pollutes the environment, wipes out ecosystems, and it's destroying our cultural heritage. The states of California, Oregon, have all passed seabed mining bills to prevent it from happening in their oceans. So I encourage you, please, to pass this and support it. We need to protect our oceans, our culture, and Hawaii's economic base, because the ocean is very important to our economy. And I know that you folks are focused on protecting our environment, so I know that's the right thing. Thank you so much for hearing this bill. Have a really good day.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party on Zoom.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Vice Chair and members of the committee. My name is Melody Aduha, and I represent the Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party. Our caucus has over 7,500 members statewide, and we strongly support Senate Bill 2575. It is simply not possible to conduct seabed mining in a manner that avoids destroying the affected seabed and creating massive plumes of polluted water in the water column above the seabed, causing harm to ocean health and the well-being of coastal communities. Seabed mining destroys whole communities of life on the seafloor, leaving behind habitats that may never recover. I thank you very much for this opportunity to testify, and I am available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Looks like that's all we have signed up for SB 2575 HD1. Is there anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Oh, okay. Seeing none, members, any questions? Okay, no questions. We will move on to HCR 4, requesting Hawaii's congressional delegation to amend the Wildfire Protection Agreement to allow Hawaii to join as a member. And we have Michael Walker, Department of Land and Natural Resources.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Michael Walker. I serve as the statewide fire protection forester for Department of Land and Natural Resources, Division of Forestry and Wildlife. And we stand on our written testimony in support of this measure and here for any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to provide testimony?
Michael, hang out right there.
You're next as well. Oh. Members, any questions? Okay, Chair.
Michael. That's why. Sorry, if you can come back up, please. Quick question on this resolution.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if it might be appropriate to amend the resolution to ask the current members of the agreement if they can revise the agreement themselves to allow Hawaii to join as a member versus going the circuitous route of through Congress and then through the agreement. Do you think that might be a workable?
Yes, I've actually already been talking with them about that. So I don't know if my interpretation of Chapter 185 is that it gives the administrator the ability to enter into agreements. It states it in 185, and so I have been in talks with the folks within the Northwest Fire Agreement about that, and so they seem to be open to that. They're having a meeting in April that they've invited me to. So that's their annual meeting, and they could allow us to join then. So
Okay. 'Cause
I am
think
in
it was-
support of the resolution because just in case there is some legal challenge that arises, that we would have this, we'd be able to fall back on the congressional side of things. But it's my interpretation of that. That's how 185 allows us. So
Okay, so maybe you'll get more clarity and a better answer when you go to your meeting in April, it sounds like.
yes.
Okay, so it sounds like maybe we keep the language as is, and then you talk to them some more, and then let us know if we need to change it. I guess what I'm trying to get at is the most efficient way to support Hawaii joining this agreement. Maybe we don't need to talk to the congressional delegation if the members of the current agreement will agree to let us join right away.
Yeah. Okay. We could work on the amending the language. If you need amendments prior to the next hearing.
Well, I think the preference would be to amend it now. So the thought was to amend it to say that requesting the current members of the Northwest Wildlands Protection Agreement, please consider allowing Hawaii to join as a member. Do you think that could still work?
That works for me.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to HCR 19 and HR 9 together, urging the Department of Land and Natural Resources to implement native plant seedling projects in Mililanimalka to restore the ecological damage from the November wildfires. DLNR.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chairs, members of the committee. Michael Walker, serving as the statewide fire protection forester, Department of Land and Natural Resources. We stand on our testimony in support of this bill. However, it was something that I didn't include in my testimony is that the bulk of the property that the fire perimeter is on is U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service lands. So we would have to work in some sort of agreement with them in order to pursue this kind of seed project on their lands. So.
Okay. Thank you. That's all. Oh, no. On HR 9, we have Rory Kuahara on Zoom.
Hi, my name is Rory Kuahara, and I'm a 5th grader at Mililanimalka Elementary School. I'm testifying in support of HR 9. I have been learning about the importance of native plants since I was a young girl, and when the wildfire in the forest above Mililanimalka started, I was concerned because of all the damage it caused to the native ecosystem. Large pieces of native uruhe fern ash fell around my neighborhood and at school. It looked like it was snowing, but black. It made me sad that the native plants and habitat for wildlife was burning so close to my home. In Hawaii, the groundwater system delivers fresh water to everyone's homes. It is charged by the native plants in the mountains. The native plants that were burned by the wildfires could easily be replaced by fast-growing invasive plants. These plants will not contribute to recharging the groundwater supply like the native plants do. So, replanting the native plants and weeding out the invasive plants will help to make sure there is enough fresh water for our daily use and for future generations. I hope you will consider passing HR 9 because I believe it will benefit our community in the present and in the future. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Okay, seeing none, members, any questions? Okay, no questions. We'll move on to HCR 29, urging the United States Congress to support continued funding of the Affordable Connectivity Program, Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism.
Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, DBED stands on his written testimony in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Verizon.
Morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Mike Yosu on behalf of Verizon Wireless. We're in strong support of this reso. The ACP is a good program. It's provided about more than $20 million to the state so far. It helps low-income rural families have access to the internet. And I think the Congress is probably entertaining the ability to keep funding this, so urging from the state would go well. Thanks.
Thank you. Hawaii Broadband, Hui? On Zoom? No? Okay. Not present. That's all we have signed up. Is there anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Okay, seeing none. Members, any questions? Okay, no questions. We'll move on to HCR 72, HR 57, requesting the insurance commissioner to coordinate and develop a wildfire insurance compact. DCCA.
DCCA Insurance Division stands on its own testimonials and comments.
Thank you. DCCA. DLNR.
Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Michael Walker, Department of Land and Natural Resources, Hawaii Fire Protection Enforcer. We stand on our testimony in support of this measure and available for any questions.
Thank you. Okay, for HR 57, I also have DCCA, but I'm assuming it's the same testimony. Okay, thank you. Okay, there's no one else signed up. Is there anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Okay, seeing none. Members, any questions? Okay, Chair.
Question for DCCA. In reading your testimony, I just want to understand your concerns. It's about the pooling language, the
Yes.
risk pooling. So if we were to take that out of the resolution, would you be okay with the remainder of it, just to work on some kind of compact sharing of information?
Well, we didn't take a position on it. Yeah, I think the risk pooling issue, because it wasn't defined, I mean, that would make it less of a concern, although it's not clear what else we want to do with the compact. We already information share with other insurance regulators through our participation in the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, and we actually communicated with other Western states in the aftermath of the Maui fires regarding what they had done in their states.
Are there any other compacts out there that you're aware of between other states?
I'm not aware of any compacts, no. But the National Association of Insurance Commissioners isn't necessarily a compact. It's an organization of the insurance regulators throughout the country. And through our participation in that, we're able to communicate with other regulators all over the country.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any more questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to HCR 82, HR 6, and HR 68, requesting the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development and Land Use Commission to develop an integrated land use plan. We have Department of Agriculture.
Morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Earlier, the Department of Agriculture. The department has strong concerns about one particular measurement being asked in this concurrent resolution about estimating land needs for various goals, state goals, and that has to do with the estimation of acreage and location of agricultural land needed to achieve to be determined goal of food sustainability. The concern we have is that once this number or numbers are identified and locations identified, that can be used, pointed to in future legislation, and will have the double-edged sword effect for people having other motivations, other uses for this number, pointing to it and saying, "Oh, this came from the Department of Agriculture," and it could be used against the other states' goals for increasing food self-sufficiency and so forth, protecting the protecting the resources necessary for agricultural production. So otherwise we again have a strong concern with that particular aspect of these resolutions. Thank you.
Thank you. State Land Use Commission.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members. We put in our testimony. We've been a little bit late. I hope you guys got it. We'll stand on our testimony just to reiterate that, the Land Use Commission is the end decision maker, and we need good information to be able to balance the different goals and objectives that are out there. And so we do support this type of a study, and we defer to the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development about the intricacies of that, but available to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Office of Planning and Sustainable Development.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Danielle Bass, State Sustainability Coordinator from the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. Our office supports the intent of this resolution. However, we strongly support and are eager to conduct an integrated land use study as described by this resolution. We do find this to be a valuable tool to assist landowners, housing and clean energy project developers, agricultural industry leaders, and state and county policymakers and agencies to visualize balance and identify potential solutions to meet the state's numerous housing, climate, sustainability targets that are codified in many of our laws within the constraints and limited resources and scarce land availability that Hawaii has to offer. We'd like to highlight that many of these climate and sustainability and housing targets actually must be achieved by certain specific dates. Many include to be achieved by 2030, which is a mere 5.5 years away. So again, we find this to be a valuable tool. That being said, we are requesting about 4 amendments for this resolution. First, we would like the plan's deadline to be delivered to the legislature and the Land Use Commission by December 1st, 2026. Second, we're requesting OPSD to report on the progress of said plan and progress of the database estimates 1 year prior, so December 1st, 2025. Third, we'd like to update and report the integrated land use study to the legislature and LUC every 5 years following its publication. And fourth, and most important, this legislative resolution does not come with funding. This burden would be imposed on the state sustainability branch of the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development, which has no staff besides myself. So we would like to request, should this resolution pass, that OPSD, through our own budget line item BED 144, to have $500,000 in fiscal year 2024-2025 for the allocation of 2 full-time equivalent planner 5s and 1 secretary 3, as well as to use some of that continued funding for the purposes to conduct this study and database measurements. Without that funding, we will not be able to perform this study. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's all signed up to testify. Is there anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Okay, seeing none. Members, any questions? Okay, no questions. We will move on to HCR 83 and HR 69, requesting the Department of Land and Natural Resources to work with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and other experts to conduct a study on the population status of coral reef herbivores around the island of Oahu and develop effective policies for substantially increasing those populations within a decade. First, we have DLNR.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Charlie Taylor on behalf of Department of Land and Natural Resources Division of Aquatic Resources. We stand on our written testimony and support and will be available for any questions.
Thank you. Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party on Zoom.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Melody Aduha, and I represent the Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii, which has 7,500 members statewide, and we stand in strong support of House Concurrent Resolution 83 and House Resolution 69. These resolutions stem, at least in part, from the now failed House Bill 1689, which would have placed restrictions on night fishing uhu parrotfish. These herbivores help physically sustain our reef environments, and the reef contributes to the environmental sustainability of our entire marine environment. Without abundant and diverse herbivores, especially uhu, many of our reefs are now covered in seaweed. which quickly smothers corals unless they are removed by these fish. We must protect our reefs. Please pass these resolutions. Thank you, and I am available for questions.
Thank you. Okay, for HR 69, Melody, I have you as well, but I think your previous testimony applies to that too. Okay.
Yes, thank you very much.
And I have Kenneth A. Martin on Zoom.
Hello. I support passage of HCR 83 and HR 69 because herbivore fish in general and uhu parrotfish in particular are so important to the long-term sustainability of both our reefs and our white sandy beaches. And parrotfish, along with other herbivores, are being overfished and depleted in the ocean around Oahu in a way that is simply not sustainable. According to scientists at the University of Hawaii, approximately 70% of the white sand in Hawaii comes from uhu parrotfish. Parrotfish feed on the algae that grow on the surface of many reefs. In this process of eating, the parrotfish teeth also chew off a small bit of coral, which is ground up further by special grinding teeth and eventually expelled, pooped out, as white sand. A single large parrotfish can produce 1,000 to 2,000 pounds or more of sand per year. In addition to parrotfish helping to preserve our beaches by producing about 70% of all the white sand in Hawaii, scientists also tell us that parrotfish are good for the health of our coral reefs. In addition to removing the algae that sometimes smother and kill our reefs, as other herbivores also do, the uhu in particular make small bite marks on the coral, and that actually stimulates new coral growth, which helps make the corals more resilient against global warming, more resilient against warming ocean and ocean pollution. Uhu are already listed as a depleted species by the National Marine Fisheries Service. That scientific evidence is also consistent with my personal observations and the observations of my friends who spearfish and surf. On both the North Shore and the South Shore of Oahu, we used to see many parrotfish, now we see very few. The HCR 83 and HR 69 will help support numerous different strategies to help protect uhu and other herbivore fish. One of the primary ones is the need for prohibition, at least on Oahu, of night spearfishing for uhu. Parrotfish tend to be very wary of humans in the daytime. However, at night, parrotfish are typically in a sleep-like state and frequently sleeping under rock overhangs or in crevices, and particularly vulnerable to spearfishing at night. When an underwater hunter finds a sleeping parrotfish and shines a light on it at night, it typically does not swim away, which makes it an easy target. Just swim up to it and spear it. Many South Pacific islands have similar species and subspecies of parrotfish to those found in Hawaii, and on many of those South Pacific islands, parrotfish have been absolutely decimated by excessive spearfishing at night. On Guam, at least one subspecies of parrotfish is already extinct. Here in Hawaii, all too often, especially on Oahu, large groups of people will spearfish for uhu parrotfish at night with lights and collectively kill dozens and dozens of parrotfish and more or less sweep an area clean of all the parrotfish. So in order to help protect this depleted but critically important species of fish, there really should be a limitation that spearfishing for uhu can be done only during daylight hours. Now, the following is important, I think, to consider. When the Board of Land and Natural Resources approved back on December 15, 2023, the recent new rules to help protect herbivore fish, which the rules that have been proposed by the DLNR staff.
Mr. Mullenix, can you please conclude your testimony?
Yes, can I have 20 seconds?
Oh, Mr. Martin, sorry.
Yeah. Yes, can I have 20 seconds to conclude?
Just briefly.
When that happened, the board did not have the power to add any additional rules at the same time that it was approving the DLNR staff's proposed rules. However, a clear majority of the board members present made strong statements on the record that they were also in favor of prohibiting the nighttime spearfishing of uhu parrotfish, and they strongly requested that the DLNR staff move forward with that and some other new rules. Passage of HCR 83 and HR 69 will help support and encourage those efforts by the Board of Land and Natural Resources. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, that's all we have signed up. Is there anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Okay, seeing none. Members, any questions? Okay, no questions. We'll move on to HCR 87, HR 73, requesting the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency to install a new emergency siren near the intersection of Aumakua Street and Auhuhu Street in Upper Pacific Palisades. We have Daniel C. Smith on Zoom. Okay, not present. That's all we have signed up to testify. Is there anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Okay, seeing none, members, no testifiers, no one to ask questions of. We'll move on to HCR 88, HR 74, encouraging the state of Hawaii to adopt a proposed constitutional amendment and the electorate to ratify the proposed amendment, guaranteeing all individuals the right to a clean and healthy environment. We have Dave Mullenix on Zoom.
Aloha, Dave Mullix here from Greenpeace Hawaii. Thank you so much for actually writing this bill and hearing this bill. This is very important. We have a right to own a gun, but we don't have a right to a clean environment. And that's really, shocking. When they originally wrote our Constitution, we had a clean environment. We didn't have the huge problems we have with climate today. And if we were writing our Constitution today, we would put in an amendment like this to protect our health and safety of our climate and our environment. So I encourage you to pass this. Thank you for bringing it forward. And it's greatly appreciated. All my best to you. Aloha.
Thank you. Okay, that's all we have signed up. Is there anyone else wishing to provide testimony?
Hello, Vice Chair. This is Melody Aduha. I'd like to provide oral testimony on this measure.
Okay, please proceed.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Melody Aduha, and I represent the Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii, which consists of 7,500 members statewide. We are in favor of this resolution as it endorses what we consider the Green Amendment, and it's very important that we would allow this type of protection under our Constitution. Right now, we do rely on the public trust doctrine of the Hawaii State Constitution as well as the precautionary principle. However, much of this has to be done through the judiciary system, which is very time-consuming, as you may well know, through litigation. So if we have this Green Amendment or an endorsement by the legislature of this Green Amendment, then it would safeguard and provide a lot of protections that human health as well as the environment requires for a healthful environment for this generation as well as the generations in the future. Please pass these resolutions. Thank you very much. And I'm available for questions.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Okay, seeing none. Members, any questions? No questions. We'll move on to HCR 92, HR 76. Recognizing the issue of illegal dumping within the Waipahu community and urging the state and city and county of Honolulu and military to work together to address this concern. We have Department of Health on Zoom.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members. My name is Glenn Ha'a. I'm with the Department of Health, Solid and Hazardous Waste Branch. The department stands on its written testimony, providing comments, and we're available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all we have signed up to testify. Is there anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Okay, come on up.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of committee. Illegal dumping is a prominent issue, especially in the Waipahu community. There is cluttering of streets, foliage, leading to environmental crises in the area. Examples of this is the degrading of infrastructure, pathway blocking, ushering pedestrians closer to roads, leading to a higher risk of motor vehicle accidents. Fines in illegal dumpings are sharp glass and metals, drug needles, which poses a risk for students who find themselves on those types of property, places for homeless to stay in general. And students, especially in Waipahu High School, go to these places to skip school, which is a huge issue for Waipahu High School. So they will be putting themselves at risk because of these sharp glasses, metals, and needles, and possibly homeless people they would find along the area. So in summary, the passing of HCR 92 and 93, as well as HR 76 and 77, will greatly strengthen the combined movement of will greatly strengthen the combined movement of the Waipahu community that has already been garnered, that already has been garnered over time to finally address and tackle this issue. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Okay, seeing none, we will move, members, any questions? Okay, we will move on to HCR 93, HR 77. It has the same title as the previous, but it is slightly different. Recognizing the issue of illegal dumping within the Waipahu community and urging the state and city and county of Honolulu and military to work together to address this concern. Department of Health.
Good morning, Glenn Howe again with Department of Health. Department stands on its written testimony, providing comments and available for any questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Okay, seeing none, members, any questions? Okay, no questions. We will move on to HCR 95, HR 79, requesting the Department of Facility Maintenance of the City and County of Honolulu to clean certain streams and canals in Waipahu. HCR 95. Okay. We have no one signed up to testify. Is there anyone wishing to provide testimony? Okay, seeing none. No questions. HCR 90, we'll move on to HCR 97, HR 81. Requesting the Department of Accounting and General Services to establish a working group to plan and construct a Hawaii First Responders Memorial. Department of Accounting and General Services.
Good morning, Vice Chair and Vice Chair and members of the committee. Eric Nishimoto, on behalf of the Comptroller, Department of Accounting General Services, we stand on our written testimony and support.
Thank you. Hawaii Law Enforcement Memorial Foundation on Zoom.
Hi, good morning. My name is Kirk Kendrow. I'm a retired major from the Honolulu Police Department, and I also serve as the president of the board of directors for the Hawaii Law Enforcement Memorial. Our foundation board of directors stand in strong support of this House concurrent resolution and hope that it would move forward. Having lost law enforcement partners, two from my own police academy class, I can understand and I know the need of having a place that can be a place of honor for these heroes that have died in service of our community. I have worked personally with some of the people that would be on this Hawaii Responders Memorial, Peter Crown, Mandy Shiraki, Cliff Rigsby, and it is truly a place of honor not only for the members of these agencies, but also for the family members, the public, and it's a place of honor that we need to really work on, and we strongly support that. I'm available to answer any questions and would gladly do so and strongly support this measure. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have Ed Fujioka on Zoom.
Hi, good morning. My name is Ed Fujioka. I'm a retired EMS district chief. I want to give a shout out to Major Kendrow. He was kind enough to give me a lot of information and the methodology that the Law Enforcement Memorial followed to get the memorial built. Also want to thank Chair Ichiyama, Senator Wakai, Councilmember Radiant Cordero, who have helped me and have supported this resolution. As the Major has mentioned, when you lose a line employee on line of duty, there's a large hole or void left with the agency, especially after the funeral of the line of duty death. The living personnel and the families and friends don't have anywhere to go to honor all these first responders collectively. For many years now, there have been several medics and EMTs who have tried to get this memorial built, and they haven't been able to do it. In fact, the majority of those members who have tried to build a memorial in the past have all have died. One of them is Mandy Shiraki, line of duty death. Marlena Yomes, another line of duty death. And others who have retired have passed on. So I felt urgent need for myself as a higher ranking EMS chief that we need to get this memorial built. I hope that this gets built so that families and friends who come to Hawaii have a place to honor their family members who have passed in our line of duty. Thank you. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. And that's all we have signed up. Is there anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Okay, seeing none, members, any questions? Okay, no questions. We'll move on to HCR 105 and HR 86, requesting the Department of Land and Natural Resources to clearly delineate or distinguish property boundaries to ensure that hunting activities are occurring on designated lands. 105, DLNR.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. We support the intent of this measure. My name is Jason Omick with DLNR. We support the intent of this measure and stand by our written testimony and available for any questions.
Thank you. That's all we have signed up. Is there anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Okay, seeing none, members, any questions? Okay, no questions. We'll move on to HCR 124 and HR 104, requesting the Department of Law Enforcement to convene a search and rescue working group to develop and make recommendations to deter hikers from entering illegal hiking trails and to address rising search and rescue costs facing the state and counties due to increased illegal hiking traffic. Okay, we have no one signed up to testify. Is there anyone wishing to provide testimony? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to HCR 134 and HR 115, directing the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency to submit a grant request to Federal Emergency Management Agency for rockfall mitigation in Waunalua Gardens and Waunalua Valley on Oahu. HCR 134. Okay, we have no one signed up to provide testimony. Is there anyone wishing to provide testimony? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to HR 122, fire and flood mitigation in South Maui. DLNR.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, Jason Omick, DLNR. We stand by our written testimony, offering comments and available for any questions.
Thank you. Okay, that's all we have signed up. Is there anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Okay, seeing none, members, any questions? No questions. We'll move on to HCR 148 and HR 127, urging the Department of Land and Natural Resources to convene a vegetation management working group to study, evaluate, and make recommendations regarding regulations that define property owner obligations to perform vegetation management on public and private property for purposes of wildfire risk mitigation. DCCA Division of Consumer Advocacy. Okay, Department of Land and Natural Resources.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Michael Walker, serving as a statewide fire protection forester for Department of Land and Natural Resources. We stand on our testimony, providing comments, and available for any questions.
Thank you. Public Utilities Commission.
Morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Kyra Howe, Utility Analyst at the Public Utilities Commission. We stand on our written testimony, providing comments, and I'm available for any questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Hawaiian Electric.
Good morning, Chair and Vice Chair and members of the committee. My name is Wendy Oda, and I'm here on behalf of Hawaiian Electric. We have submitted written testimony, but I would like to add to our testimony. Hawaiian Electric understands the community's concerns about wildfire risk and believes the formation of the Vegetation Management Group is the first step in defining property owner obligations to perform vegetation management on public and private properties to address wildfire risk mitigation. Hawaiian Electric understands and is sensitive to the major challenges to vegetation management and landowner compliance, but looks forward to participating in the Vegetation Management Working Group. Hawaiian Electric believes the Vegetation Management Working Group will consider wildfire mitigation measures such as regulations identifying vegetation management obligations of landowners, as well as practical vegetation management programs for landowners and public utilities. Thank you for the opportunity to add to my testimony, and I'm here to take any questions.
Thank you. International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 1260.
Hi, good morning. Kiko Bukowski on behalf of IBEW 1260, stand in strong support.
Thank you. Okay, that's all we have signed up. Anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Okay, seeing none, members, any questions? Okay, no questions. We'll move on to HCR 158 and HR 137, requesting a task force to be established to recommend changes to the structure and administration of the Commission on Water Resources Management to improve its operations and functions and protect its mission. DLNR.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Ryan Kanako-Ole, First Deputy, Department of Land and Natural Resources. Chair Chang was actually intending to come here from the CWAR meeting to present testimony, and she just stepped out for a minute. I would ask for your lenience to defer for a little bit for her testimony. Otherwise, we stand on our testimony that was submitted.
Do you know if she's coming right back? Or?
Yes, her things are right there.
Okay, we can move on to the next testifier, and if she gets back in time, we can have her come up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Board of Water Supply.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Kathy Mitchell with the Board of Water Supply. We stand on our written testimony and support.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Is there anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Anyone? Okay.
Chair Chang coming back, or?
Yeah, she stepped out to the restroom.
Oh.
Okay. I
Okay.
think we're okay.
I think we have her written testimony. and
Yeah.
That's good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, members, any questions? Okay, seeing no questions, we'll move on to HCR 198 and HR 178, requesting the state's congressional delegation to advocate for the enforcement of existing international laws to reduce ghost nets entering the state from international waters and take other actions to reduce marine debris from fishing gear. DLNR.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, Charlie Taylor, on behalf of Department of Land and Natural Resources Division of Aquatic Resources. We stand on our written testimony and support. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all we have signed up. Is there anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Okay, seeing none. Members, any questions? Okay, no questions. We'll move on to HCR 199, HR 179, requesting the Department of Land and Natural Resources to identify all appropriate sites as state parks at which a water bottle filling station could be installed. DLNR. Okay, is there anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Okay, seeing none. No questions, no testifiers. We'll move on to HCR 207, HR 187, requesting the Department of Health to establish a per and polyfluoro substance testing testing grant program in collaboration with the University of Hawaii. Okay. What is this next? Board of Water Supply.
For the record, Kathy Mitchell with the Board of Water Supply. We stand on our written testimony and support.
Thank you. Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party on Zoom.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Melody Aduha, and I represent the Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii. And we have over 7,500 members statewide, and we strongly support House Concurrent Resolution 207 and House Resolution 187. A PFAS testing grant program is important for several reasons. Number one would be the health risk. PFAS can contaminate drinking water and bioaccumulates in fish and wildlife and has multiple adverse health effects on humans. Exposures to PFAS is linked to an increased risk of high cholesterol, suboptimal antibody response, reduced infant and fetal growth, and higher risks of kidney cancer. It also has adverse environmental impacts, as well as, and this is part part that's really difficult to grasp is that PFAS is found in many products and in our environment, such as clothing, disposable cutlery, tableware, takeout containers, shaving creams, mascara, and other makeup. And also, for this reason, we do need to have a method of detection and prevention. Therefore, this PFAS testing grant program, it will provide funding to assist local communities, businesses, and residents throughout the state in obtaining testing services and biological sampling for PFAS detection. This can help identify and detect PFAS in water, soil, dust crops, food packaging, consumer products, and other substances and materials. Please pass these resolutions, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dave Mullenix on Zoom.
Yes, thank you. Dave Mullins from the Green Party of Hawaii. Greenpeace of Hawaii. Greenpeace is the largest international environmental organization in the world. We have over 3 million members, and also here in Hawaii, we have thousands of members. I can't add any more to what Melody just said from the Environmental Caucus. She's covered it very thoroughly, so we stand in really strong support of this legislation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's all we have signed up. Is there anyone else wishing to provide testimony?
Thank you, Chair. Vice Chair, Ted Boland, as an individual. I have learned recently about how much the health impacts are for PFAS and also how omnipresent they are. We need to know where they are because the health impacts are in parts per trillion. It's really low amounts can cause serious health impacts, which we did not know a few years ago. So we need to get serious about this. We need testing. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Okay, seeing none, members, any questions? Oh, Rep. Ganadin.
To the Board of Water Supply. Just a few quick questions. First off, how do we say the word?
PFAS.
Oh, we're not going to mess with the whole
Yeah.
I'm not going to even try it. It looks like a dinosaur. How do we do testing now? I'm asking because, there was this chemical found during the cleanup of Red Hill, like when we were testing for a variety of other things. And then there was talk just 2 years ago about standing up a testing facility at the University of Hawaii. How is it happening now?
I can't speak for the University of Hawaii, but I do know that the Department of Health is working with the Navy. They still, although they defueled the tanks and are removing the sludge, they still have to address remediation. And there are identified areas within Red Hill that have PFAS. And we need more testing if it's beyond Red Hill. I know the AmeriCorps, they did a study of military bases throughout the island, the state. And
I think more specific to the resolution is how do we test for these substances now? So is there a testing facility here on Oahu? Or how, is there a process? Do we still send it to a lab somewhere in California and then wait 2 weeks? How do we do it?
I would defer to Department of Health if they're here.
And they're not, okay.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, members, any more questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to HCR 208 and HR 188. Requesting Hawaii's congressional delegation to urge Congress to fund construction of a laboratory certified by the Environmental Protection Agency to provide information to the public on environmental toxins in the state. Board of Water Supply.
Kathy Mitchell, Board of Water Supply. We stand on our testimony in support. As stated earlier in the previous concurrent resolution, The Department of Health is identifying, they're finding PFAS in the soil at Red Hill. They do have data, and so that's a start. We test our drinking water. We have a lab in our, but it's not a large lab, but we can identify. But to work with our congressional delegation to establish a laboratory certified by the EPA would be best for the state of Hawaii.
Thank you. Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Melody Aduha, and I'm co-chair of the Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party, which has over 7,500 members statewide. And we strongly support House Concurrent Resolution 208 and House Resolution 188. This is a follow-up to Supplement Act 121 of the 2022 session of the legislature under HB 2515. We seek an in-state EPA certified lab so that samples need not be sent to a mainland EPA certified lab, necessitating a 2-week to 5-week turnaround time before the community is notified of any presence of harmful contaminants and toxins in the water, soil, and air, and in the produce, fish, and wildlife that we consume. These resolutions ask our congressional delegation to obtain the funding necessary to achieve an EPA-certified toxicology lab in state. We need this independence to conduct our own testing to detect in real time the presence of toxins and contaminants in our water, soil, air, and food so that the necessary precautions and preventive measures can be taken immediately. Please pass these resolutions, and I am available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Mullenix on Zoom.
Yes, Dave Mullenix with Greenpeace Hawaii. Still with that. We stand in strong support. I think the Navy Red Hill catastrophe is an excellent example of why we need this. So it's essential. I mean, they've contaminated our land and water with PFAS and with the toxins from their jet fuel. And by the time we find out what's really contaminating, it's like almost too late. And so we need to have a lab here in Hawaii. So we're standing in strong support. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's all we have signed up. Is there anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Okay, seeing none, members, any questions? Okay, no questions. We'll move on to HCR 209 and HR 189, urging every state agency that monitors environmental toxins and pollutants to follow certain procedural and substantive requirements for the establishment and modification of environmental action levels. Board of Water and Supply.
Kathy Mitchell, Board of Water Supply. We stand on our written testimony and support. Thank you.
Thank you. Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party on Zoom.
Okay, good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Melody Aduha, and I am the co-chair of the Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party for Hawaii, and we have over 7,500 members statewide, and we strongly support House Concurrent Resolution 209 and House Resolution 189. These resolutions urges the Department of Health to provide a more robust advance public notice and outreach when the Department of Health is proposing changes to the EALs, and it asks the DOH to provide scientific evidence of its reasoning, provide justification as to why it is in the public interest to make these changes and allow the public to present evidence at such hearings. I'd like to take, for example, PFAS. In April of 2023, the Department of Health raised the PFAS EALs on PFOA from 6 parts per trillion to 12 parts per trillion, which is a 100% increase. And this is at a time when the EPA's interim MCLs, which is the maximum contaminant level, was issued at 0.004 parts per trillion. Therefore, the Department of Health's EALs, which is the environmental action level, was increased 3,000 times the level of PFOA that is allowed by the EPA for safe drinking water. So the public should be provided with this advance notice and an opportunity to be heard, as these EALs that the Department of Health issues seriously affects the human health and the health of the environment. So please pass these resolutions. They're very important, especially when there are such a big discrepancies between the amount of the EALs that the Department of Health issues versus the amounts of level which would be considered safe by the EPA. Thank you.
Thank
And I'm
you.
available for questions.
Thank you. Dave Mullenix on Zoom.
Dave Mux with Greenpeace Hawaii, representing our thousands of members statewide. We stand in strong support of this resolution. I think the Department of Health's less than robust enthusiasm in protecting our health and safety at Red Hill is a good example of why we need to pass this resolution. Thank you so much for hearing this legislation or this resolution. Have a really good day.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Okay, seeing none, members, any questions?
Do you have anybody here from Department of Health? Anyone, Department of Health? No? Okay. Maybe I'll ask this question to Ms. Aduha. I'm concerned about the language of this resolution on page 3, that every state agency that monitors environmental toxins and pollutants is urged to allow any resident of the state to petition for modification of one or more environmental action levels and respond to a petition in the manner provided by Chapter 91. I'm concerned because we could potentially have a resident wanting to increase environmental action levels, at the very same time, another person could come and say we need to decrease it. And it really puts the agency in a position where you have, people petitioning every which way.
Yes, I see that. I think, Chair, you're asking whether it should be, well, the first thing that comes to mind is that it does address all agencies, where in essence, it's really just the Department of Health that raises or decreases the EALs. So that's one area. But what you are also asking is when you've got different residents that are advocating for, in this case, your example, opposing EALs. I would hope that if this resolution passes and the Department of Health does come up with a process in which a public hearing would be available, that the Department of Health would then combine both of these requests and review them together and hopefully come up with a compromise that would satisfy all parties concerned.
I'm also a little concerned because this section seems to contradict the prior section, which says that they have to have scientific evidence consistent with best practices, right? We're putting all these things on the agency, but any resident could petition and they don't have to rely on any science at all. That's how I read this. Is that correct?
Well, I would assume in such a case that the reason why the resident would want to bring this petition in the first place is because he or she has that scientific best practices available to show to the Department of Health. Take, for example, what if I were a petitioner, I would then submit evidence of the EPA's, in that case, the example I gave you, I would submit evidence of the EPA's interim maximum contaminant level at being at 0.004 parts per trillion, and then question the scientific evidence, justification, and best practices that the Department of Health used in order to increase the parts per trillion EAL from 6 to 12, which is totally inconsistent with what the EPA is recommending, which is a recommendation that is nationwide versus one that is, for the Department of Health, just one that is statewide. So,
okay, but I'm worried that we're opening up the door, the way that the resolution is written, to, it could be somebody who denies that climate change is real. And they may point to all kinds of what they feel is scientific best evidence, right? I guess, I understand you, Melody, would want to follow the EPA and use science. I guess I'm not so confident because this bill is any resident in the state that everybody would come to it with the best of intentions. Does that make sense?
It does. It does, Chair. However, I guess just like in a judicial system, it would be all based on evidence and credibility of the one who is bringing the petition. So we wouldn't, of course, be able to say, well, this particular individual, although he or she brought this petition, really does not have the credibility or the evidence to put forth such a petition. I believe we are, however, not within the, I don't see how we can close that. It's like we have to just, like the court system, you're going to have frivolous lawsuits, but you can't foreclose that. You can only, once the hearing has been established and the evidence put forth, and then in that case, then I guess the Department of Health, serving as judge, would be able to discern what is credible and what is incredible. And
So
hopefully.
Are you imagining more of a contested case hearing? Where the parties present evidence and bring forth witnesses, and there's an administrating hearings officer that would make a ruling? Is that what you're envisioning?
Yes.
Quasi-judicial process?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And then hearing.
Thank you for clarifying. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to HCR 214, HR 194, requesting the Department of Land and Natural Resources to collaborate with federal, state, and county governments, landowners, and stakeholders to protect, restore, and manage the West Maui wetlands and wetlands statewide. And DLNR.
Hello, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Department of Land and Natural Resources stands on our written testimony and support. We're here for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's all we have signed up. Is there anyone else wishing to provide testimony?
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Ted Boland on behalf of the Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition. You have my written testimony. I just want to emphasize how important wetlands are for the environment. My career as a lawyer has been in water pollution, and I have seen how much wetlands have the ability to reduce water pollution that's going out in the ocean. And in the case of Lahaina, if we'd had the wetlands that were there originally before we covered them over, we'd be in much better shape in downtown Lahaina, just as a safety matter. But in terms of an environmental matter, wetlands are critical, and we should do everything we can to restore the ones that used to be here. Most of them have been covered over, and we should get them back. Thank you very much for the opportunity to testify. Available for questions.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Okay, seeing none, members, questions? Okay, no questions. We'll move on to HCR 220 and to HR 200, empowering resident sovereignty over green spaces for food production, cultural activities, and climate resilience. We don't have anyone signed up to testify. Is there anyone wishing to provide testimony? Okay, no testimony, no questions. We'll move on to HCR 8, approving the dedication of Kukuia Street, Lahaina, Hawaii to the County of Maui. HCR 8, DLNR.
Good morning. DLNR stands on its testimony and support. Mahalo.
Thank you. Hawaii Housing, Finance, and Development Corporation.
Morning, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members, Dean Minakami, Executive Director of the Hawaii Housing Finance Development Corporation. We stand on our testimony in strong support of this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's all we have signed up. Anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Okay, seeing none, members, questions? Okay, no questions. We'll move on to HCR 9, authorizing the issuance of a perpetual non-exclusive easement covering a portion of state submerged lands at Heia, Ko'olaupoko, Oahu for the existing drain and for use, repair, and maintenance of the existing improvements constructed thereon. DLNR.
Good morning. DLNR stands on its written testimony and support, and we're here for any questions. Mahalo.
Thank you. Okay, that's all we have signed up. Is there anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Okay, seeing none. Members, any questions? Okay, no questions. We will move on to HCR 10. Authorizing the issuance of a term non-exclusive easement covering a portion of state submerged lands at Kaneohe, Ko'olapoko, Oahu for the existing boat ramp and concrete wall and for use, repair, and maintenance of the existing improvements constructed thereon. HCR 10, DLNR.
DLNR stands on its testimony and support. Mahalo.
Thank you. Michael L. Hoff on Zoom. Okay. No, not here. Okay. Okay, members, anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Okay, members, questions? Okay, no questions. We'll move on to HCR 11. Authorizing the issuance of a term non-exclusive easement covering a portion of state submerged lands at Waialaiki, Honolulu, Oahu for the existing revetment and for use, repair, and maintenance of the existing improvements constructed thereon. DLNR.
DLNR stands on its testimony and support.
Thank you. That's all we have signed up. Anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Okay, seeing none. Members, questions? Okay, no questions. We'll move on to HCR 12. Authorizing the issuance of a term non-exclusive easement covering a portion of state submerged lands at Kaneohe, Ko'olapoko, Oahu for the existing concrete boat ramp and for use, repair, and maintenance of the existing improvements constructed thereon. DLNR.
DLNR stands on its testimony and support. I'm gonna move closer.
Thank you.
Just stand right there.
Okay, HCR 13. Oh, wait. Anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Okay, seeing none. Members, questions? Okay, no questions. HCR 13. Authorizing the issuance of a term non-exclusive easement covering a portion of state submerged lands at Hau'ula, Ko'olauloa, Oahu for the existing riprap, revetment ramp, and rock groin, and for use, repair, and maintenance of the existing improvements constructed thereon. DLNR.
DLNR stands on its testimony and support.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Okay, seeing none. Members, any questions? Okay, no questions. We'll move on to HCR 14. Authorizing the issuance of a term non-exclusive easement covering a portion of state submerged lands at Ma'alaya Beach Lots, Waikapu, Wailuku, Maui for the existing seawall and for use, repair, and maintenance of the existing improvements constructed thereon. HCR 14. DLNR.
DLNR stands on its testimony and support.
Thank you. Milowai Ma'alaya AOAO.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Tansy Mintz. I'm the president of our association. And on behalf, we'd like to let you know that we stand on our written testimony and offer that all repairs to our seawall were completed in May of 2021, and all requirements of the state's non-exclusive easement dated 1/8/2021 have been completed, except for the obtaining legislative concurrent resolution. We please ask for your support of HCR 14, and I'm available for any questions you may have.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else wishing to provide testimony? That's all we have signed up. Okay, seeing none. Members, any questions? Okay, no questions. We'll move on to HCR 22. Authorizing the issuance of a term non-exclusive easement covering a portion of state submerged lands at Waikiki, Honolulu, Oahu for construction, use, repair, and maintenance of steps. DLNR.
DLNR stands on its testimony and support.
Thank you. That's all we have signed up. Anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Okay, seeing none. Members, any questions? Okay, no questions. We'll move on to HCR 98. Authorizing the sale of one or more leases of submerged lands at state small boat harbors. DLNR.
DLNR stands on its testimony and strong support.
We
have Dober here to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Wailoa River and Reeds Bay Boating and User Association on Zoom. Surfrider Oahu Chapter. Okay. Christine Walrus Chung on Zoom. Kate Thompson on Zoom. Margaret Hallahan on Zoom. Marcia He on Zoom.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Oh, thank you. Aloha, my name is Marcia He. I speak as a lifelong citizen of Hawaii, currently residing in Volcano, Hawaii, 96785. I oppose HCR 98. I have serious reservations of the intent and result of this bill. My concern is that this authorization for sales, lease, and privatization of submerged lands, small boat harbors, and their facilities could end affordable and sustainable boat slip fees for local fishermen and their families. It would also eliminate public recourse and input on accessibility and adequate proper maintenance of small boat harbors for its users. My issue is that we are not getting clarity on what has and is being done with the funding, and we would like an accounting of the past 20 years from the BLNR, Division of Boating and Ocean Recreation, regarding the funding expended and budgeted. For example, one local ohana pays over $400 a month for their boat slip fee, which is over $4,800 a year. And if you take that over the years, and with so many other fishermen and boaters who have paid their monthly fees, I'm really wondering, what about those monies and funds? I'm also concerned that the dredging and maintenance of small boat harbors has been overdue or behind schedule. HCR 98 sidesteps responsibility and accountability of, it seems to me, sidesteps responsibility and accountability of BLNR and Ocean Recreation Management to address long-term issues on the management, accessibility, and usage of small boat harbors and facilities that seriously impact local fishermen, their families, and the community at large now and in the future. So again, I oppose HCR 98. I think we need to take a better look at what this bill, does. And so I thank you for taking my concerns and opinion into consideration, as it also reflects concerns and opinion of others who could not be here at this time. Respectfully, Marcia He, lifelong citizen of Hawaii, currently in Volcano, Hawaii. Mahalo.
Thank you. Kate Thompson on Zoom.
Aloha. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, please go ahead.
Hello. Oh, good, because I haven't ever done the Zoom, actually. I've usually been able to make it in live. Good morning, Chair Ishiyama and Co-Chair Poipoi. I'm very happy to be able to testify. This is a surprise concurrent resolution to me, and that's a lot of what our complaints are about the Division of Voting, and also with DLNR, is these things kind of come up as a surprise, and we're not sure why that's all encompassing and coming in as a concurrent resolution. But this resolution to sell the fast lands in long-term 65-year leases is, so my name is Kate, but I'm Kate Thompson, and I testified as an individual, but I'm also the director of surfparking.org, trying to protect public access, especially at the Alawai and the famous surf site of Bulls. I'm concerned about boaters. I'm a boater for 25 years with my boat in the harbor, but I'm mostly concerned about lower income and middle income people being able to access the ocean. And although the testimony from DLNR says that, the public, the yacht clubs are working, La Mariana, Hawaii Yacht Club, and Waikiki Yacht Club, That's one thing, but they're wonderful with teaching sailing and many community outreach activities, but I'm afraid that there's going to be a stratification. And when I first moved to Hawaii as a woman, I could not have been a club member at many of the type of country clubs and things. So there is a history of sexism, racism, and economic schism with privatizing lands like this. And we really need to keep it public. These are very congested areas especially in urban Oahu, the R Harbor. But selling these public lands is pretty much disastrous. It's almost like a family selling their house in a reverse mortgage. We don't really need to do this. We need to audit the board. We need to get measurable goals. This phrase, strategic plan, is not strategic. It doesn't have measurable goals. It doesn't have plans other than to just let the harbors run down and convince people that we have to sell them. So please stand strong for the Hawaiians that need to serve and all the people of Hawaii. And thank you for opposing this resolution.
Thank you. That's all we have signed up. Is there anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Okay, seeing none, members, any questions? Okay, no questions. We'll move on to HCR 50, HR 39, requesting the auditor to conduct a performance audit of the operations and management of the Department of Land and Natural Resources, Division of Boating and Ocean Recreation. We have DLNR.
DLNR stands on its written testimony offering comments.
Thank you. That's all we have signed up. Is there anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Okay, seeing none, members, any questions? Okay, no questions, so move on to, oh, that's all. Okay, yay, recess for decision-making. Okay, we're back from our recess for decision-making. We're going to start with SB 2575 HD1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Members, any questions or comments, concerns? Okay, seeing none, chair for the vote.
Members, we're voting on Senate Bill 2575, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Chair, Vice Chair vote aye. Rep. Chun? Aye. Rep. Ganyuden? Aye. Rep. Hashem? Aye. Rep. Mizuno? Aye. Rep. Morikawa?
Aye.
Rep. Takayama is excused, and Rep. Souza? Aye. Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. HCR 4, Recommendation is to pass out a House Draft 1. We're going to make an amendment to request that current members to the Wildland Protection Agreement amend the agreement to allow Hawaii to join as a member. That is the recommendation. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, Chair for the vote.
Members voting on House Concurrent Resolution Number 4, recommendation is to pass with amendments. Are there any reservations or noes? Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. HCR 19, HR 9, recommendation is to pass out a House Draft 1. We're going to make technical amendments for clarity, consistency, and style, and we are going to add for the department to work with U.S. Fish and Wildlife and add U.S. Fish and Wildlife to the recipient list. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, seeing none, Chair for the vote.
Members voting on HCR 19 and HR 9, recommendation is to pass with amendments. Are there any reservations or noes? Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. HCR 29, recommendation is to pass as is. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, seeing none, Chair for the vote.
Voting on HCR 29, recommendation is to pass as is. Any reservations or noes? Recommendation adopted.
Thank you, members. HCR 72 and HR 57, recommendation is to pass out a House Draft 1, and we are going to remove the risk pooling language. That is the recommendation. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, Chair for the vote.
Voting on HCR 72 and HR 57, recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any reservations or noes? Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. For HCR 82 and HR 68, we are going to defer. Okay. HCR 83 and HR 69, recommendation is to pass as is. Any questions, comments, concerns? Okay, seeing none, Chair for the vote.
Okay, members voting on HCR 83, HR 69, recommendation is to pass as is. Any reservations or noes? Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. HCR 87 and HR 73, recommendation is to pass as is. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Thank you.
Seeing none, Chair for the vote.
We are voting on HCR 87 and HR 73. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any reservations or noes? Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. HCR 88 and HR 74, recommendation is to pass a House Draft 1 with a couple amendments. We're just going to emphasize the stable climate component, and in the title after the words clean and healthy environment, we're going to add and a stable climate. And on page 2, line 25, after the word environment, we're going to add and a stable climate and. That is the recommendation. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, Chair for the vote.
Voting on HCR 88 and HR 74, recommendation to pass with amendments. Any reservations or noes? Recommendation adopted.
Thank you, members. HCR 92, HR 76. This one is really similar to HCR 93 and HR 77. So we're going to bring in some of the language from HCR 93 relating to bike paths. And we're going to add a whereas to say, whereas bike paths in Waipahu and the surrounding areas are particularly impacted by acts of illegal dumping. And then we're going to bring in language from page 2, lines 2 to 4, and make other language edits for clarity, consistency, and style. That is the recommendation. Any questions, comments, concerns? Okay, Chair for the vote.
Voting on HCR 92, HR 76, recommendation to pass with amendments. Any reservations or noes? Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. For HCR 93 and HR 77, because we brought in the language into HCR 92 and passed that one out, we're going to defer this one. HCR 93 and HR 77 is deferred. HCR 95 and HR 79, recommendation is to pass as is. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, hearing none, Chair for the vote.
Voting on HCR 95, HR 79, recommendation to pass as is. Any reservations or noes? Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. HCR 97 and HR 81, recommendation is to pass a House Draft 1, just making technical amendments for clarity, consistency, and style. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, hearing none, chair for the vote.
Voting on HCR 97, HR 81, recommendation to pass with amendments. Any reservations or noes? Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. HCR 105 and HR 86, recommendation is to pass as is. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, hearing none, chair for the vote.
Voting on HCR 105, HR 86, recommendation is to pass as is. Any reservations or noes? Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. HCR 124 and HR 104 as is. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, hearing none, chair for the vote.
Voting on HCR 124, HR 104, recommendation to pass as is. Any reservations or noes? Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. HCR 134 and HR 115, recommendation is to pass as is. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, hearing none, chair for the vote.
Voting on HCR 134, HR 115, recommendation is to pass as is. Any reservations or noes? Recommendation adopted.
Thank you, members. Voting on, or for HR 122, recommendation is to pass out of House Draft 1. We're going to take the DLNR amendments from their testimony and then make technical, non-substantive amendments for clarity, consistency, and style. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, hearing none, chair for the vote.
Voting on HR 122, recommendation to pass with amendments. Any reservations or noes? Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. HCR 148 and HR 127, we're going to make some amendments and pass the House Draft 1. Recommendation is to incorporate the DCCA Division of Consumer Advocacy comments to add that this working group should consider the wildfire mitigation actions being proposed as part of Hawaiian Electric Company's Climate Adaptation Transmission and Distribution Resilience Program and the Electric Utilities Hazard Mitigation Plans filed with the Public Utilities Commission. We are going to note some of the concerns that DLNR brought up in their testimony into the committee report, and that is the recommendation. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, chair for the vote.
Voting on HCR 148, HR 127, recommendation to pass with amendments. Any reservations or noes? Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. HCR 158 and HR 137, we are going to defer. HCR 198 and HR 170, HR 178 and HCR 198. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, hearing none, chair for the vote.
Voting on HCR 198, HR 178, recommendation is to pass as is. Any reservations or noes? Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. HCR 199 and HR 179, we're going to defer, noting that the department's testimony responds to the inquiry made and the action requested in the resolution. HCR 207 and HR 187, recommendation is to pass as is. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, the chair for the vote.
Voting on HCR 207, HR 187, recommendation to pass as is. Any reservations? Noes? Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. HCR 208 and HR 188, recommendation is to pass as is. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, hearing none, chair for the vote.
Voting on HCR 208, HR 188, recommendation is to pass as is. Any reservations or noes? Okay. Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. HCR 209 and HR 189, we are going to defer. HCR 214 and HR 194, recommendation is to pass as is. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, chair for the vote.
Voting on HCR 214, HR 194, recommendation is to pass as is. Any reservations or noes? Recommendation adopted.
Thank you, members. HCR 220 and HR 200, recommendation is to pass a House Draft 1. We're going to make technical, non-substantive amendments, change language to encourage the Hawaii Public Housing Authority to work with residents to create green spaces for food production, cultural activities, and climate resilience, and make conforming amendments throughout. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair and Chair, for passing this out. This is the result of a working group that is discussing the development of 600-plus new units at Kuhio Park Terrace, the two big towers that you pass along the H1 freeway. One of their big desires was, I'm gonna just go talk through them. They want to make more gardens, they want to plant some trees, and the rules don't allow them to do that right now. It's my fault for not informing the advocates that this was on the agenda today. So thank you so much for passing this out. They're all going to show up in the next one. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Okay, Chair for the vote.
Voting on HCR 220, HR 200, recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any reservations or noes? Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. HCR 8, recommendation is to pass as is. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, hearing none, Chair for the vote.
Voting on HCR 8, recommendation to pass as is. Any reservations or noes? Recommendation adopted.
Thank you, members. HCR 9, recommendation is to pass as is. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, hearing none, Chair for the vote.
Voting on HCR 9, recommendation to pass as is. Any reservations or noes? Recommendation adopted.
Thank you, members. Okay, HCR 10. We have some amendments for recommended amendments for HCR 10 and some of the other resolutions relating to the state submerged land easements. So for HCR 10, recommendation is to pass with amendments. We are going to add some whereas clauses that speak to the urgency of sea level rise and coastal erosion and the rate at which that is happening. And then we're going to add a whereas that the state legislature, well, I'll just read it. Whereas the state legislature finds that the practice of issuance of easements to private landowners for state submerged lands on a case-by-case basis is not prudent as a long-term strategy when considered in relation to the public trust doctrine and in context of planning for landscape scale adaptation and retreat. And then we are going to authorize an easement of a term not more than 15 years. And this is to give the department time to plan for addressing the issue more comprehensively and holistically, but also recognizing the need to give these property owners some security and reduce the state's liability while we figure out the long-term solution. Any questions, comments, or concerns with the amendments? Okay, hearing none, Chair for the vote.
Voting on HCR 10, recommendation is to pass with amendments. Are there any reservations or noes? Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. For HCR 11, recommendation is to pass with the same amendments as in HCR 10. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, hearing none, Chair for the vote.
Voting on HCR 11, recommendation to pass with amendments. Any reservations or noes? Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. For HCR 12, the recommendation is to pass with the same amendments as HCR 10. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, Chair for the vote.
Voting on HCR 12 with amendments. Any reservations or noes? Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. For HCR 13, recommendation is to pass with amendments, the same amendments as HCR 10, technical amendments for clarity, consistency, and style. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, hearing none, Chair for the vote.
Voting on HCR 13, recommendation is passed with amendments. Any reservations or noes? Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. For HCR 14, recommendation is to pass with amendments, the same amendments as HCR 10. And we're just going to add a whereas clause relating to ensuring public access is maintained. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, hearing none, Chair for the vote.
Voting on HCR 14, recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any reservations or noes? Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. HCR 22, recommendation is to pass with the same amendments as HCR 10. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, hearing none, Chair for the vote.
Voting on HCR 22, recommendation to pass with amendments. Any reservations or noes? Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. HCR 98, we're going to defer. HCR 50, recommendation is to pass as is. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, Chair for the vote.
Voting on HCR 50, recommendation is to pass as is. Are there any reservations or noes? Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. And then we're going to go into.
Oh, just to clarify, that was on HCR 50 and HR 39
Oh, yes,
together.
yes, HCR 50 and HR 39.
Passing as is. And then we have one more. DM only. This was a bill that we heard last week.
Yes. So we're going to do decision-making for SB 2182, which was previously heard on March 12, 2024 at 9 a.m. Recommendation is to pass a House Draft 1. And we're going to insert a new Section 1 amending Section 187A-52 Hawaii Revised Statutes to clarify who this section pertains to and who shall collect the fee. And we're going to amend the sunset date year to 2031 and also defect the date to the year 3000. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, Chair for the vote.
Voting on Senate Bill 2182, recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any reservations or noes? Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members, and we are adjourned.
Reminder